Okay, number one, this one wants to know, does negative 8 solve the polynomial equation? And so in the text, all they did was plug it in. I'm going to show you another method as well. It may be a little bit confusing now, but you will need to learn this later, and I think it'll help when we get to polynomial division for finding factors with a degree greater than 3. So for number one, I'm going to write it down just as they have it. We have a negative 13 times x squared plus 22x is equal to 2x to the third plus 21. Okay, and we're going to plug in x equals negative 8. So we get negative 13, and then x is going to be a negative 8 squared, and then plus 22 times negative 8 is equal to 2 times negative 8 cubed plus 21. Okay, so I'm going to let the calculator do all the heavy lifting for these numbers. So I can do 8 squared, get 64, but I'm going to let the calculator do the 64 times 13, or I just punch it all in at once. So I'm going to turn this on, do negative 13, and then I'll just do negative 8. I'll just punch it all in. Squared, so that's the first number, and we get a negative 832. And then we're going to do 22 times negative 8, which is not too bad. Missed a 2. Get a negative 176. And then 8 cubed times 2, negative 8 cubed times 2. Gives us 1024, or negative 1024, that is. And then we just have a plus 21. So we want to know, do both these sides come out to be equal? We're just going to add these, combine these, and see what we get. So we're going to I'm just going to leave the negatives off. I can figure it out without the negatives. Well, it doesn't matter. Let me put them on. Negative 832 plus a negative 176. So on the left side, we get 1008. A negative 1008, that is. And does that equal to what we get on the other side, which is a negative 1024 plus 21. All right, and we get 1003. So those are not the same. Negative 1003. Okay, so the other way that I would recommend is I'm going to move from our original problem, everything to the right side, and set one side equal to 0. So that means I'm going to add the 13 and change its sign and subtract the 22. So this is another method, and I just see if it equals 0. That's what they mean, solve it, set it equal to 0. So my 2x to the third, and then add this over here, so it'd be a positive 13x squared, and then subtract and move the 22x, so minus 22x, and then you have your plus 21. Now these are some big numbers, so I still may use the calculator, but here's the method with this one. You put it in order from largest degree to smallest, and you make sure you have all your terms, which means you start with your biggest number and you count backwards to 0. 3, 2, 1x, 0x's. So I have all my terms. you're going to just list the coefficients only. 2, 13, negative 22, and 21. And then the number, which I call a box number, is the number that they gave us to use, which is negative 8. And we're looking to see that at the end, do I get a 0? So I'm looking for this number to be 0. That's what solves it. All you do is you bring the first number straight down, always, and everything below the line gets multiplied by negative 8, and then you write the result and do the math. So negative 8 times 2 is a negative 16. Combine these, positive and a negative, you subtract, and you get a negative 3. And then you do it again. Multiply these two. Negative 8 and negative 3 will give you a positive 24. You always write your result up on the next line, and then combine these, and I will get a positive 2. And then negative 8 times positive 2 will give us a negative 16. And then combine those, and I get positive 5. So the fact that this is not equal to 0 means it doesn't solve it. So I think this is a little bit easier than math is. Anyway, I didn't really have to use a calculator to solve that one at all. So does negative 8 solve this one? We're going to say no. All right, and then we'll go ahead and do number 2 here. We want to solve the polynomial equation by factoring or using the quadratic formula. All right, so we have x cubed minus 12x squared plus 32x equals 0. So x cubed minus 12x squared plus 32x equals 0. All right, so first of all, I'm looking to see what all these terms have in common, and all of them have an x, so I'm going to factor out an x. And then I want to see if this will factor. So 1, leading term is a 1, leading coefficient right here is a 1 times 32. And I'm going to write the factors of 32, which are 1 and 32, 2 and 16, 4 and 8. And I think that's what I'm looking for, because I'm looking for the factors of 32 that add to give me 12. And 4 plus 8 will give me 12. So I'll have an x, and then 2 sets of parentheses from the factoring. The 1x will go in the front of each parenthesis, separating the x squared, and then the 4 and the 8 at the back. Doesn't matter which one goes where. Left to right, the first sign is my bigger number, so 8 will be negative. The second sign being positive tells me that these will be the same. So that's my factoring method. And now that we have these in linear factors, we just set each of these terms equal to 0, x equals 0, x minus 4 equals 0, and when you solve this, you get x equals 4, and then you have x minus 8 equals 0, and x equals 8. So we got 0, 4, and 8 as zeros. Sorry, this kind of cut off.